So it now gives me great pleasure to hand the meeting over to Jack D, who's going to be sharing on the topic of Step 9. I just want to say a massive thank you to Jack, who has been an amazing friend and fellow of UK Open Lounge, and we're so excited to have you back here tonight with us. So yeah, over to you.
I'm a better man for knowing all you folks here. So the thanks really goes to you, but that was a very nice welcome, Kat, so I appreciate it. Yeah, my name's Jack, and I'm an alcoholic. And man, that prayer was powerful. Jeez, it might have just been because you read it. It's good to see you. There's a few folks on here that, while we were locked down where I live in Baltimore, Maryland, I spent a lot of time with every day, and it's just cool to be together. So, and my heart was not this open before going through the steps. And my heart was not this open before making direct amends. And it's an honor to talk about this. For me, this is, if there's one step that I could clearly link the most profound and drastic changes that have taken place in my life, this would be the one that I pointed at. Now, if you want to get ethereal and technical, then you got to point to the one before it, and you got to go all the way to one. And I know all that, but I'm just saying that until I really walked through a lot of the wreckage of my past and became willing to face it, there were so many parts of my life that just never really changed. And again, before I get going, I just want to be very clear that this is my experience, and I'm going to share about whatever comes out is going to come out, but probably some of the directions I was given, some of the experiences I've had, and hopefully the results of what this power's done as a result of that. But it is not to say that any other way or other people's ways or anybody else's experience is right or wrong. But mine has been profound, and I'm really grateful for mine. And I didn't always feel that way in AA. There was a lot of times in Alcoholics Anonymous for years where I looked around wanting other people's experiences. I really did. And I'm not saying that those thoughts can't still come, but for the most part, I am really content with the actions that I've been shown, and with the experiences that I've had, and with the knowledge that prayer that was read should be more of a lifestyle now than just a one-time trip through a process. But I can't get there without the trip through the process. So there's a reason why for my life that the steps were written the way that they were, and in very concrete and direct language to a man like me who thinks as much as I do. I needed a lot of help cutting through a lot of stuff to actually do things. Because I'd still be sitting on the couch thinking about stuff after step 5. If they didn't write the rest of the steps the way they did, there's a lot of stuff I got to figure out here before I go talk to anybody. Good sponsorship says, no, there's not, man. There's not that much for you to figure out. You've done plenty of that, buddy, and it ain't working, bro. So thanks to good sponsorship and the grace of God and beautiful people like yourselves and Alcoholics Anonymous, my life has been completely changed. There's no other way to put it. It has been completely changed. What a cool thing, man. So, I've been sober this time since August 19, 2012. I came to AA the first time when I really wanted to stay here in 2010. And I didn't really start making direct amends until 2018. I went to the steps a bunch of times between 2012 and 2018, but I never actually looked at a list of harms and direct amends until I was like 6 or 7 years sober, and it was at the hand of an incredible amount of pain. A lot of which, I got to remember that I'm like 3 or 4 minutes less, started my timer late. And I promised Gordon I wouldn't run over. So we'll see how we do on keeping that. Promise. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I will not do that. But you know, I don't want to say that a lot of the reason why I ran so amok in AA and in my life for years here was because I didn't make amends. That's not all that it was, you know. But I can't. But it's hard. It is hard when you finally do the one thing you never did for 6 years and everything starts to change. It's hard to not point at that one thing. And that one thing for me was this. Was the direct amends process. That was the one I had written in. I had been through the steps 5 times in 6 years with 5 different sponsors, never really being sponsorable. But anyway, I did like the amount of steps with them I wanted to, which usually looked like 1 through 7, make an 8-step list, jump over 9, not really do 10, a little bit of 11, and try to help people so that I felt better. And I stayed sober doing that. I didn't get well. You know, I didn't have any power to practice principles in my affairs. So I think it's important for me to talk about before I launch into, this powerful 9-step, it's really important for me to talk about that. The reason why I finally ended up in a place where I was willing to look at standing on the doorsteps of every single person that I never wanted to see again was as a result of not doing that for years and really feeling like my life was coming to an end internally. And yet I had everything I had ever wanted, plus whatever else externally. But internally, I was dead. Los Angeles, California, oceanfront, Playa del Rey, new car, bunch of money, traveling it, blah, blah, everything externally, beautiful girl, blah, 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 ruining it all, leaving my girlfriend at the time, couldn't stay with her, committing fraud for work, but calling it the gray area because someone told me it was the gray, just like one thing after another, hustling and traveling and dying inside. 6-7 years sober, and I don't know if anything would have been different had I cleaned up my past before then. And I don't know. I highly doubt I had the power or that was going to happen because it didn't. So I'm clear on that. But it's important to say, I didn't just all of a sudden one day say, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to go make all my amends. Not at all. To this day, however many into that process still, when that comes up and it's time to go, and I've lined it out and I've gotten willing and I've gotten clear and I'm willing to go, I still don't want to go. I still don't want to have to look at who and what I can be without power and without help and without, literally divine intervention. Everything inside of my ego, selfishness still wants to say, no, just do you, man, or whatever. So I end up in a place where I'm willing to finally look at this step again. And I've heard the 9-step talked about and discussed, many, many different ways in the last 10 or 12 years, many different. And I feel fortunate that when I came dying to my sponsor's doorstep, literally to his feet, 6-7 years sober, he knew exactly what to do with me. That's incredible. He knew exactly what to do. He was 100% clear on what my problem was, why I was suffering, and what I had done to my own life. And one of the biggest things that he stressed as we walked into the fist at that time, which was a couple weeks after I had gotten back in touch with him, was you're going to have to do what you haven't done before, or else nothing's going to be different, bro. I'm sorry, man, but that's just a fact. He's a very direct human being. Thank God. I'm still terrified of being as direct as he is. And I need so much help because I'm scared of what people think of me. I'm scared to tell people the truth because they might not like me, even though the truth might save their life. See how selfish that is. It's incredible, the level of selfishness and self-seeking that's existing in me. But anyway, he was not worried about it when he was talking to me. He was very clear that he needed to be that direct to me or else I might die. And so one of the things was, let's just be clear. We're going to walk through. We're going to make amends. We're going to do the whole thing, right, man? Like, we're going to do that, Jack, because if not, what are you doing here? And fortunately, I was broken enough, and yes. And I knew that was scary, and I was terrified. But when I went into that fifth step and I looked at the reality of my life, then I saw how I'd been showing up, and I knew that I couldn't change it. And now I'm looking at 90% of this behavior was not before I got here, but once I had been sober. I started to really see at a different depth what it's like to not be able to change yourself and to need to take drastic action to access a power that can produce that change. And from that beginning of an experiential understanding, I think, looking back, it seems like that's where some willingness to get out into the world and actually look people in the eye finally came from. Which I had never, that's just, you get all the way up to 8, right? Like, if you look at it as far as, the steps go, it's like I still haven't really had to face anybody yet. I've had to face myself. I've had to tell my sponsor, but like, I haven't actually had to go out and see anyone that I'm afraid of seeing until now. So it makes a lot of sense to me that myself and many others who I know avoid it like the plague because it's scary. And avoiding scary stuff makes sense. That's why we're scared of it. We don't want to do it. It's like, it's not illogical. It's not like, oh, this is bad AA because you don't make amends. Amends are scary, But there finally came a point where it was way more scary to continue to be who I was and act as I had been, drunk or sober. And I'm just glad that I didn't die on the way there. And the biggest relationship, I at that point I was dating, I was dating this young woman that I just could not, my conduct in relationships has been nothing short of just atrocious and sad and selfish. And I was dating this young woman and I knew I wanted to be different for her and I couldn't be. Like I kept having to leave and and I'm selfish and I'm single and I want to be single when I got money and I want to worry about work and I just I couldn't do anything and one of the biggest pieces in this inventory that I started to see was the impact that I had on her and her family and her friends and our little community where we were living at the time. And this consideration was brought to me because this had been now the truth for me in AA for 6 or 7 years, that this is how I was showing up in relationships or when I dated people. And the consideration was brought to me. And I remember it as my sponsor saying it this directly. I don't know if he did or not, or if it just came from my heart or whatever, but it was essentially that, is it possible that unless you clean up this area of your life in the past, you will never be able to exist wholly and usefully in this area of your life in the present? And I felt like I got smacked in the face with a brick. I was just like, what are you talking about? And how do you say things that are so profound in one sentence box? Like, you ask me one question and I can't talk anymore. You're like a Jedi. Because it's, what it is? It's finally coming face to face with the truth when I've been in delusion for my years. I'm so used to it. Has, as you can tell, a lot of words, a lot of words going on in my life. You know what I mean? And when the truth comes, it's literally silenced me. And when that happens, there's not much to say. It's like, yeah, man, you're probably right. I don't know, like this, like, yes, that's all I got. It's just like, yes. But what does that look like? What are you talking about? Because I'm under the impression at this point that I don't go talk to any people that I've dated before. That's not what I don't do that. That's not what we do. And he's just like, who's we? You talking about you and me? Because that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm just like, whoa, wait a second, man. Like, now I know now he's breaking AA rules, man. You need to chill. You can't be breaking AA rules, sponsor man. You're supposed to be a sponsor man, And unfortunately, he wasn't worried about much except for me getting a relationship with the power. So this list started to form, and we started to go out. And I remember that weekend when I did that fifth step, I left that conference that Sunday, and before that Sunday was over, I had made my first direct amends in a different state than the day I started it. And I'm just so good. Like, that's not because I'm some virtuous member of AA. That's because there's some power that flows through this process that gave me a willingness that I had never known before. And thank God. Because you know why, really? Because why thank God? Because every single person in my life that I've been able to interact with from that moment until now deserved that. Not because I did. Not because it's so cool that I got free and ended up getting married and da-da-da-da. Because every single relationship that I've been in, almost from then until now, almost everyone has been on a plane that none had ever been on before. That's insane. And that every one of those people deserved that. And God did that through me. What? How? It was very simple. And that's why it was so hard for me to grasp for so long, because it was so simple. You're going to demonstrate this power by showing up to the people that you've lived and demonstrated without this power, and be honest about who and what you were, and trust that he's going to change you through that level of honesty and transparency. It's just like, and then he does. That's what's crazy, is like, because when I'm in that much pain, man, I can buy it. I can listen to him and say, Dane, okay, man, like, I'm dying. I don't want to leave Cleo again. I know I've been committing crimes. I'm terrified of what I'm going to have to do for my work life. I don't want to be a bad son anymore. I'll do whatever you say. But I don't actually think that everything's going to change. I get so emotional so fast. It's wild. It's like I can't talk about it without just blubbering up. It's so, like, I am sitting right now. I'm sitting right now in a home that I own with my wife. This moment I'm talking about, when I started making amends, I was terrified to move in with a human because of the way I conducted myself in relationships. I was committing crimes for a living under the guise that I was helping people, and I had done nothing but use women my whole life. And I sit here today in a home that I own with a woman that I'm married to. It's insane. Like, and I didn't produce that result, is the biggest message I got. Taking actions that access a power that can do that is all that I did. And that came from pain too. I didn't give myself that power either. But it's just, sometimes I just, like, it's overwhelming. That's the aggressive. It's just overwhelming. So I promise I won't just cry. I will actually continue to talk, but it's just powerful what's happened, and what continues to happen. And so, the list was long, and that didn't scare my sponsor. Fortunately, been around a while, has a lot of experience himself, and walked through it. And, my sponsor's not my God, but my sponsor's my guy. He's not my guy, but he's my guy, and I needed someone, because I was about to have to walk through, a lot of amends with the opposite sex, who I had interacted with. And I needed a lot of direction on language, because, I thought none of them were going to want to see me for amends. And I swear to God, 80% of them were like, yes, please. I would love to have a conversation with you about how you were a total, scumbag, for lack of a better word. And I can't tell you how many of them said, you're the first person that's ever come back and done this to me, especially in AA, and how powerful those experiences were. So I was going to need a lot of help with that. I was going to need to learn how Now I'm going to be moving in with this girl. I got to leave my whole work life behind. Little did I know I was going to end up having to deal with legal consequences. Like, I needed someone that was going to be able to walk with me. And I knew, and again, no offense to anyone or anything or anywhere, but I knew I wasn't just going to local meetings and going to share about this every day and get direction that was going to lead me to God. Like, I knew I needed someone that was going to walk with me. And thank God that that's exactly what we're doing here. That's exactly what we're doing with each other here. But I couldn't just go somewhere every day and say, hey, can you help me with this one? Can someone help me with this one? Because like, there was needed a relationship, and a man who had seen and heard my inventory and knew the depths and the reality of the defects that were creating and causing and driving so much of this behavior that I was now going to be going and making amends for. So that I was showing up and having real language and talking about my selfishness and my inconsideration and the fact that I never thought about them and their families and their lives and their emotions and who they were and what they'd been through before they met me and how I left and what I said and what I didn't say. I had never thought about any of that. So, it's a really important part of making direct amends is for me, it was working with someone who had also done that. And now that's the same for me, working with guys, really being able to share experience, not opinion. And if I don't have it, getting on the phone and taking it right up the chain. Hey, do you know somebody that knows somebody? You always know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. You usually don't have to go more than 3 away in AA. So you find somebody that's got experience with something, that's one of the beautiful things about this here deal we got going on. So anyway, my life started in Maryland when I got sober. It boomeranged to Los Angeles, which is where, I started to go back through the steps and really look at the amends process. And in between, I had been all over, So part of this was that, I was going to have to, and I've been doing this weird work stuff, that essentially, was getting paid to fill beds at treatment centers in a way that's not legal and trying to structure it in a way that was, but it really wasn't. And I had to get honest about that. But I had traveled a lot, so there was a lot of different places to go. And so we just started going to them. I stopped working, and all the money that I'd made or saved or whatever just started to go towards everywhere I needed to go to clean up everything I'd just done for the last 7 to 15 years of my life, essentially. And there has been so many wonderful conversations as a result of that. I mean, there's just, and part of it was, yes, because I knew I didn't want to die. That's why it began. Because I knew that this was the only thing left. This needed to be done, or else there was not going to be any hope for me to really change. And if I didn't change, I was either going to drink again or put a gun in my mouth. I was clear on that. And I was living and had been friends with a guy that I'd been doing my whole work life with in California since we were 11 years old. I'd known him since I was 11, and we'd been living together for years. And now, almost what seemingly to all the people in my life out in California, overnight, I become this I don't want to do this anymore, man. This is objectionable to me now. And, I'm just imagining how they're seeing me. Like I was all in for years, and now I'm like, whoa, and it's like, so how do you have these types of conversations? And they were really hard, and I had initial ones with all the guys out there, and then I tried to continue hanging out. And I remember we all went to a dinner, and I had made amends to everybody at this table. There's 8 people there. We were all doing the same thing for work. And, my whole life in California was I was either paying someone or they were paying me. That's what was happening in California. That's it. That was my life. And which is really sad. That profit motive was in every single relationship I was in, but it's true. And I didn't see it that way. I just saw, it's just work, man. It's the hustle, man. This is hustle culture, man. This is blah, blah, blah. This is lies, man. This is self-deception, man. This is self-delusion, man. You're insane, bro. That's what really should have came out, but a whole bunch of other stuff that sounded a lot better than that is what came out. But I go to this dinner, and I'm sitting there, and I had this feeling inside of me that's something like I had never felt before. And it was like this level of, I was sad and I was incredibly uncomfortable at the same time. And I knew that something was really different about who I was sitting at that table. And I didn't know what that meant. And I remember coming home and I got on the phone with my sponsor the next day and I said, man, I feel like these guys just want me to be their friend. And I don't know what to do because it did not feel right being there. And he said, when's the last time you took the meaning of the word friend to prayer and meditation? And again, I'm just like, dude, never, man. Like, I've never, man. Like, I should probably do that, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm really scared about what this is going to turn into because these little simple questions you ask, big guy, they don't end little simple questions. Like, I got a feeling something's coming on the back end of this answer. So anyway, I do that. And like honesty and love and respect are like some of the first things that come. And so starts asking me questions, like what's it like to be honest with a friend? What's it like to, and it comes down to the point where it's like, I have to have honest conversations with the guys that I was just working with and living with about the fact that my life has changed so dramatically, so quickly that for some reason, if the life that they're living does not, it stays on the path that it's on, that's totally fine. But I can't hang around. And I didn't just want to stop coming around. I wanted to be honest because I love you. Now that wasn't taken very well. And so this is how this process begins. Very rocky, very like people that had just been looking up to me and I was in their weddings are looking at me like, what is your deal? Don't call me. Don't talk to me. Screw you. Get away from me. You're better than me. Like it was not all, rainbows and wonderful conversations, people responding to messages and me asking to read, just like, don't even bother. Now you think you're better than us. You taught me how to make this money. Now you're telling me that what I'm doing is wrong. I'm telling you what I did was wrong. I'm not telling you at all about what you're doing. I'm telling you what I did was wrong. I came to find out that the Federal Bureau of Investigation also happens to think it was wrong what I did. So my sponsor was right again, but I knew it was wrong, but I'm still not here to pass judgment on anybody else's life. Even if the Federal Bureau of Investigation does, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm not worried about the judgment of anyone else or anything else on someone else's life. But in my own heart and my own experience, things became clear as a result of going and seeing the people and having the conversations and staring who and what I was in the face. And these conversations continue and the traveling continues. And, and all of a sudden it's like I'm going and I'm meeting with these girls I dated or interacted with or whatever. And, I'm getting asked things like, I have this thing. I sent this one approach and I remember this right before this meeting came on. So I ran out to my car and grabbed my big book because I keep it right in here, tucked in page 79. This is a response I got just from an approach I sent I'm pretty sure I sent this approach on Instagram, wherever I could find this human being, because it was social media, it was text messages, it was letters, it was whatever. And this is the response I got to one. Hey, Jack, congratulations on the wedding. Because what I started to do is, as my relationship progressed, I was clear in every approach I sent to a female. Hey, I'm in a committed relationship. Hey, I'm engaged. Hey, I'm married. At this point, apparently, we had been married. Hey, Jack, congratulations on the wedding. Glad to see you're happy. I'd rather not see you or communicate with you more than this. If you'd like to make an amends to me, you can continue to treat your wife and any woman that comes into your path with respect they deserve. Also, any men or boys you see treating women disrespectfully, stand up for the woman being disrespected. Last thing, if you have children, teach the boys to be respectful of a woman, especially at that age. And if you have girls, teach them to only allow men in their lives that deserve to be there. Best of luck. Period. It's like this is someone that I had never actually, like the relationship that I had with this person was pretty much only emotional. It was never even physical. It's like the impact that I can have on people's lives to make them not even want to see me is, I was so asleep to that. But as I started to hear this more and more, I remember driving up to New Jersey and having someone just say, I need you to treat, like, the way that you can make this right is by treating women with respect, but also not engaging in disrespectful conduct, even if it's in a group of people. And I was just like, wow, this is like, man, we're moving out in the world now, and somehow as a result of that, some power started to flow, and that really started to happen. And we were on one trip, and I had seen a few people, and we were coming through Maryland, and as many of you know, or some of you at least, I ended up getting arrested by the FBI, and I 7 or 5 FBI agents showed up at my father's house. They had an arrest warrant. They put me in handcuffs. They put me in a car. They took me to the federal courthouse downtown Baltimore. We were living in California at the time, and like I said, I started crying earlier. Like, we've been living in Maryland ever since that day. That was June 25th, 2019, and we've been in Maryland ever since that day. My wife had to go move our stuff from Southern California. I had to stay here. She couldn't tell anybody why. It was a closed docket. I couldn't even talk about it on meetings or anything until like September of the following year because I hadn't pled guilty. So I couldn't talk about it in any detail, really, to anybody except for a few people for a while. And what has happened as a result of what felt like one of the scariest days of my life, I venture to say it probably actually was. We got many more days in front of us, but that was 5 FBI. That was scary, If I pause for a moment and I just try to take a view of my life and look at what God has done as a result of those events, it's absurd to think about the life I was living that day when that day began, the process we were on, and then what has happened since then, all while on pretrial release. I got released that day, and I've been on pretrial release since that day. I got asked Friday to have a video conference with the government today because they had stuff that they needed to talk about. They ended up never getting back, so it's getting rescheduled. I don't know. 2 days after that, I get asked if I'll talk on step 9 the same day that the government wants to talk to me about some stuff that has to do with my case. And all I could do was laugh and just say, thank you, God. Because the same thing happened the day I got arrested. I got a couple clear signs. I'm just like, you're not here for you, man. It's okay. We know it's scary, but you're not just here for you. My father ended up needing to have open heart surgery. My mother has since had a couple small strokes. My aunt has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. My wife's grandmother that lived an hour and a half north has now passed away. All of these people we spent the last 3.5 years with consistently, regularly. Driving an hour and a half, every couple of weekends to go play Scrabble with Gami for however long. Thank God. I was so wrapped in my life before I finally started addressing and admitting and squarely confronting who and what I'd been in this direct amends process. And as a result, I literally got changed into a different human being. I know I can go back. I know I'm not perfect. We're talking about 9. We're not talking about 10. I'm real active in 10. We got a lot of stuff still going on in this mind. I am not Mr. AA, but I'm literally on pretrial release, right? Okay, I'm still pending sentencing from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, United States of America versus me. So I'm not some staple of anything except for the steps do not discriminate. God's grace does not care. And there is enough power here to transform lives. The reconstruction process is a beautiful one, but that's what's happening here. But it was my life never really changed until we really got active there. It really didn't. Pieces, sure, here and there, yes, but not for real, not at depth, not in a place where I went from scared to move in and wanting to be single and doing whatever I wanted to, with someone that I knew I wanted something different. Like I didn't have the power to connect the dots, and we went to completely full partnership, totally transparent relationship, something I never knew was even possible. Never even knew was possible. Not easy. And no, we still have all kinds of, but powerful though, powerful, an experience with intimacy and love that is like, the only thing I ever thought of those words was sex. I had no idea, what power can do to the human life. And it's like, and as I accessed it and as I felt it flow and as things started to change, like anything in my life, I wanted more of it, and I'm really glad that it worked that way too. And that the amends continued to roll. And there's been a lot of beautiful experiences, and I'm about out of time, so I'm not going to keep rambling about them, but there has been many. I think, for me, there came a point where someone finally was willing to tell me like, hey man, have you really done this? And I had been to conferences and knew all kinds of people in AA and been in and out of meetings. And fortunately, I encountered, someone that was willing to still ask me the question, do you really think you've done all this? Have you made all your amends, Jack? Have you even tried? Have you ever even just made a list and thought about approaching them all or writing them all a letter? Have you even taken the time to just do that? And my answer was no. It's like, and there's just, and my answer to that is still no, for the record. There are still names I haven't been able to see. The willingness to see them all, though, has gotten there. But like, there's such a powerful, potent, direct experience in directly accessing power through the direct amends process. And God, do I love the word direct in there. It's just because it's like, it's a straight shot, and there's not a lot of skirting around it if you stay close to it. So thank God for AA. Thank God for good sponsorship. And above all, thank God for God, and I hope I did all right, Kat, and I'm going to be quiet now. And thanks for letting me share. And it's great to be here. Thank you all.